Untie Me is one of my favorite songs that I've written. I'm just saying it because I can connect on a place of, if you ever write a song, you want to have this kind of clear, oh, this is how I feel. And then ultimately, the bridge, which we'll go through, is a reflection of that relationship and listening, which is what I think prayer is, to listen. So here we go. Third and final section of our podcast for Hold Me Like You're Home. This is Untie Me.
I'm knotted up, feel not enough. I'm not in love with me. I'm tired out, and I don't know how. I can untie the string. If I tripped, I'd probably blame it all on you. I've been walking in these worn out shoes, thinking, where do I belong to? So come on and tie me. Come on and tie me. I am down and on one knee, 'cause I can't stand on my 2 feet. So come on and tie me.
Let's all take a deep breath.
I feel like I'm eating nothing but audible protein in all 3 of these songs. This is total Audible Atkins diet right here.
I like that.
And weighty.
It's Brian Parker and the Audible Atkins. That's what's the new.
And
what
Aron,
is
Aron, how you produce this? Like you said, this stay out of the way, but just such weight to support such weight is just actually quite brilliant. And with the different nuances that you bring in with the orchestration, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of true for all 3 songs, but especially for this one. It wants to feel raw. It doesn't want to feel polished. In fact, we did this just you with the guitar.
It was the most painstaking recording session I've ever had, and I was getting angrier and angrier and angrier because
you were sitting there.
Yeah, because I wanted to do it in one take. I wanted it live, and the guitar and the main vocals is not with stops, no click track, just me in a room, and I kept on messing up in the middle of this beautiful outpour, and I go, dang it, and then start over again. But what we accomplished doing that, Aron, now that I think about it, while I felt like it was the wrong song to do, maybe, or whatever, is I've always been asked, how can you capture what you do live? How can you capture that without the click and just feel, even if it's a little off, there's a couple clunky notes in here. The pattern, the strumming pattern or the picking pattern isn't perfect, but it makes it so much better. So that's the kind of behind the scenes of this one is we wanted is in the room. He had 4 microphones all around me, and I had one on my guitar, one on my vocals, and the room sounds. And but let's get into the lyrics part. What stands out, Loulita, to you?
Oh my gosh. Every single time I listen to this first verse, I just want to burst out crying.
Yeah.
And I cry in private, so I shan't be crying here.
You can get off screen if you want. That's fine.
Oh, I'm knotted up. I feel not enough. I'm knotted up, feel not enough. I'm not in love with me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, like where do you even go after that? I'm tired out and I don't know how I can untie the string. And the only thing I can say is that is exactly how I felt when I started my therapy journey and I started my journey 5 years ago, believe it or not. There was so much to untie, so much, that I just get it. You play this and I just get it. I completely relate. I'm right there with you in the studio as you're singing this in that moment. But I'm right in the center. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I'm right in the center of these lyrics. I just get it.
And I think it's because it's coming from a place where it was a stream of just emotional throw up in a journal entry. And I don't know how it became. I don't know how it started, but I don't know exactly why I was feeling this way. I think there was a moment of having sleepless nights where I felt I was detoxing from something emotionally. And I got the shakes and I couldn't sleep. And all I could do was just write it out. And usually my prayers whatever I write, my prayers, that's the best way I can express myself when I write it out. And this one is hard to share. It's like exposing yourself to public. But when you hear something like that, Loulita, where I am in the middle of that, you're like, thank God I obeyed that feeling to write this down.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, like you said, Aron, why would you share that? That's why. Because we're more alike than we know, and we can get away with the facade of we're not human. I appreciate that so much, that whatever God put me through can be applied to someone else's healing.
And it's
absolutely
giving words to feelings, and that's why, I mean, songwriters, we kind of take it for granted. Of course, you can verbalize, you can put them into rhyme, you can put them into, you can paint a picture, but that's not what, probably is not normal in a way. A lot of people go through life feeling stuff, but never really being able to point a finger on it or say what they feel. And then someone like you comes along, and then with 4 lines, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly that. It's like having a smartphone.
Yeah.
For the time before smartphones.
Yeah.
And then somebody came along and created a smartphone, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly it makes so much sense. Why didn't I think about it? Why? Because you're not Steve Jobs. But he is, and his mind works in a way. And same with songwriters. I love when songwriters take a simple concept and put it in a way that I'm like, why did nobody thought of this before? It's once it's been said, it makes so much sense. And I think this is kind of one of those where the first few lines, it just says it in a way that you picture it. It's very visual.
Like a ball of yarn, tied up into a heart, which is going to be the artwork, and how do you start? It's like a maze. How do you start untangling it all? It's like a huge knot. And one of the lines that says, if I tripped, I'd probably blame it all on you.
Yeah.
How many times are we so angry at God because we tripped? But what's next? I've been walking in these worn out shoes. Of course you're going to trip, you idiot. Take off the shoe. Like, it's that simple. And then I've been walking around wondering, where do I belong? That's why I've been walking around. And God's like, you belong to me. Why are you walking so much? Right. And these are
the lines, I'm not in love with me, which is it's a strange thing to say.
Yes.
Nobody really says that, but we kind of all try, like, would be nice to be to a healthy degree be in love with ourselves, because then
we can love others.
You can. Yeah. So yeah, it's again, it's one of those turn of phrases where, like, yeah, it's said out loud. It sounds a bit like, oh, but it makes perfect sense.
David, what are you thinking from the first part? And we'll go into the second verse now. In terms of psychology and impacting that.
The imagery of being knotted up and feeling its paralyzing effects, but it's not numbing you because it's pressuring you, it's tightening you, it's the immobility of it, which is creating all of these different emotions. And man, I'm not in love with me. And what is that even? I know what that feels like, but what does that even look like? What is the antidote or the result? How do I love me? And I think that's where the personal development world falls short, because in and of our own self, our own ability to produce the grace and the mercy and the wood and the compassion, we fall so short. So, when Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And when I think of that, am I loving myself? Am I being kind to myself as Christ loves me, as God loves me? Because if I'm the crown of his creation, if we are the crown of his creation, how am I treating somebody else's stuff? How am I treating myself? And this just really grabbed a hold of me there.
And could that be the reason why the first two songs exist? Because if I don't have it in myself, I can't give it to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, isn't it fascinating? It doesn't say love your neighbor before you love yourself.
Right.
It's as you love yourself.
Yeah, and Loulita, the interesting thing is we frame God and create an image of God in direct proportion of our own self-image. We love others how we love you. A highly judgmental person is very judgmental of themselves. I'm just speaking to me right here. So if I tripped, I'd probably blame it all on you. Man, that is a victim based in anger and fear. And Lord, I am knotted up with this, and you're the only one that can just untie me.
It's coming home. It's coming home. Yeah. So let's listen to the second part here. We'll rewind it a bit back.
I'm knotted up, should've cut it all up. Is that all that's left to do? Is it a choice? Should I raise my voice to loosen up this noose? I've been strangled by desiring a crown. I've been strangled by the ones who let me down, thinking, who do I belong to? So come untie me, come untie me, 'cause I am down and on one knee, 'cause I can't stand on my 2 feet. So come untie.
Chapter 2. I've not gotten choked up over that second verse until now. If you want to go over each line, but it really encapsulates why the person on the one side of this relationship is so broken. I'm knotted up. Again, we're back to that tension, right? You said it's not like you're numb. It's just this pressure, right? I like that way you said it, David. Should I cut it all up? There's a solution. What's an easier way to untangle something, to get the scissors out and just do a shortcut? How many people take the scissors to their mess and say, I'm going to fill it up, I'm going to just cut it all up and self-destruct?
I think I probably interpreted it similar to you, because I think, like, I can only relate it back to myself and my journey. And all I can say is the untying has been a process, and it's been a lengthy process, and it's had to be a lengthy process, because otherwise, I think if it had just been a case of let's just cut it all up, I think I would have self-destructed for sure. So there's a thing about, like, a gentleness to the untying. It's not just this thing of rip and, because you're having to untie a person that's had to learn to live with the knots.
And notice it's should I cut it all up. It's a self diagnosis.
It's a self, definitely. So
I really like the again, it's a picture. Come untie me. It's not like, oh, can you undo this, or can you make a new one, or it's like, well, this is me, this is it. If you can just make it a bit smoother, like iron out the kinks and untie the knots, that would be okay. And it's often feels like, I think it's a really good way to, often we ask God to, like, hit the undo button, Control Z.
If only.
Come Control Z me. Yeah, exactly.
And it's God is like, well, I suppose it's not how it works. And sometimes maybe it does, I don't know, but more often than not, there's us, there's what you said about the bed. You pick up your bed and not to, lay back in it, but that's you. And it's just asking the right things sometimes, just to say, oh, come on, tie me. And that's a pretty good start.
It's a prayer. It's SOS.
Praying. Yeah.
David, I see you're visibly into it, man. I got to hear what you're thinking inside, man.
I'm thinking about a man that was lying by the pool of Bethesda, singing to the swirling waters, waiting for the swirling waters to untie him. And the Bible never really says whether anyone got healed there or not. But, when you're desperate, the rumor's enough to keep you waiting there your whole life for a miracle that's not coming.
Wow.
And I've been strangled by desiring a crown. I deserve this, and I'm trying to prove to you that I deserve this honor. But I don't love myself because I don't have people around me that are loving me or honoring me the way I long to be loved. So they're strangling me. They're letting me down. And Jesus steps on the scene. And he basically says, if you want to get well, say bye-bye to Bethesda, because your miracle's not here. It's in leaving. And and this song just takes me to there.
Yeah. I was just thinking, the line that really hit me again, I've been strangled by desiring a crown. And, I just think about the years ago when I tried to start this music journey myself. And we're talking years ago. A long time ago.
A long time.
A long time. And part of my reason for even wanting to engage in some of it was to be loved by an audience, because I was so unloved at home. So it was like I was looking for a crown in an area that would have probably eaten me up and spat me out, because I wasn't ready and I wasn't in a good place in my own life. And that desire to pursue this music thing years ago was me desiring a crown, but it actually strangled me. And I had to get to a place where it's no longer about that. It's not about what it does for me. It's about what I do for the people that listen to my music. Do you know what I mean?
I thought you were going to relate to "I've been strangled by the ones who let me down."
I mean,
Because the idea,
singing.
because the idea is like, you think about this. There's two different. That's the whole desperation. It's like, because of me and because of others.
Yeah.
Loosen up this noose is one of my favorite like ways. Like, what is it called when the way that you phrase the words "loosen up the noose"? I just love the way that that rolls off the tongue, because we are strangled, but the idea that you're bringing is like, yeah, I came into Nashville wanting to be, on Music City and get myself, set up for success here. But when I started writing, I got a major conviction when I wrote Stop Striving that I'm not doing this. I'm doing it. If it's going to get anywhere, it's got to come from places like this,
Yeah.
Where it's impossible to say, oh, this is totally fake or not right, or he's trying to make money, or whatever the case is. Nothing says, okay, I can go with this from a place of authenticity and vulnerability and human struggle. That's why the theater was so popular. People wanted to see that. They wanted to see tragedies. They wanted to see comedies, and it wasn't pretty. So let's listen to the second part. And this is the bridge. I'd love to hear your interpretation of where you think this scene is going. Let's go back a little bit here.
Oh, I wish you would have listened, not repeat what you have learned. Maybe then things would be different. Wouldn't feel like love is earned. Oh, it's causing all this tension. Need to feel like all's forgiven. Even in our disagreement, I need you right now instead of your wisdom. I need you right now instead of your wisdom. So come untie me. Come untie me. I am down on one knee, 'cause I can't stand on my 2 feet. So come untie me. Ooh, ooh.
Love it. It's a little bit like, as I said, this, when you go to couples therapy, and one of the good things about that is that you leave space for the other to say what they need to say, because somebody else is sitting there, and you're not going to be like going back to the other song, like, try to talk over the other and not really listening. It's like the second half, it's basically like sitting on a couch and listening to somebody else's point of view. So it's just like it is like a learning, because you learn so much of listening to somebody else saying, well, I wish you had listened, and I need you rather than your wisdom. And it's like, yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. But just never really heard you say that, because when we're arguing, it's not, it never really comes out the way you're always on defense. So anyway, I just thought it's a bit like sitting on a couples therapy and having the space to listen to somebody, sitting through somebody else explaining how they feel and what they feel.
The picture I get is like, it's like God sitting with you in the ashes. Like,
yeah,
you're just there, and I just need you right now. Like, I'm in the ashes, and I just need to know that I'm loved.
yeah.
I'm loved right where I am. So yeah, it's very powerful. I think after this session, I'll probably just go to my room and cry.
Good. Get it out.
Musically,
I'll go put this in my head, and I'll just be like,
Like, I'll be back in 30 minutes.
Yeah, we'll give you some time. We'll be right back.
Oh,
What you say, David?
brilliant.
You said musically?
Musically, if you go back to the beginning of the song, you have this guitar strum that gives you that impression. I'm going to tell you a story. The movement in the song is so brilliant because it feels like the movement feels like a wiggling. I'm trying to make sense of this. I feel stuck. I feel the pressure, and I'm wiggling. And it's when it gets to the last verse and the last section, and how it ends is just the release of, all right, I'm done wiggling. I can't get out of this. It's just, it's perfect.
Listen.
Perfect.
It's intent. I feel like it's intentional without being without being intentional. I think it's the Holy Spirit, because we always want the end of these songs to have some sort of, when you walk out of a couples session, you want to feel like, oh my gosh, we actually learned something. We got some sort of reward out of this. How many times do you go to a session, you pay $175 and you walk out going, what did we pay money for? All I did was hear you talk about, but there's something about walking out and hearing that small whisper of hope. And I want you to hear the end of this song, because it's not audible. It's not a word, but it's a sound and it's a feeling.
So come untie me. Ooh, ooh.
There's that small, still small voice in that whisper, in that ooh, where I feel like we have to get to a place of brokenness to finally hear it. And we got to hear it at the end there. We got to hear the answer, the untying. At least that's what I get out of it. So I wish you would have listened, not repeat what you have learned. What does that conjure up as we break up? We end our time here together.
It's a man thing to try to fix. Like, if my wife comes with the problem, I'm like, oh, I can fix that. Like, let me tell you, like, this is what you need to do, or this is what I think. And she's like, why are you so angry all of a sudden? It's like, I don't need fixing. But it's sometimes you don't have to bring all the knowledge and all the solutions and all the right things to say. Sometimes you just need to be there. And
I think it's sorry.
No, go.
No, I was going to say, I think it's what David said as well, way earlier on about, in every human being, there's a fundamental need in us to be seen and heard. And that involves, listening, not always teaching. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Wish you would listen, not repeat what you have learned. Maybe then things would be different. It wouldn't feel like love is earned. So there's so many times you feel like, oh, I have to perform or fix to earn your respect or to earn your gratefulness. Like, you fixed me, thank you, right? Or you do something because you know they're going to probably talk good about you to somebody else. Or there's reasons why we do what we do, because we're broken and we need that still small voice to say, you're loved, you're good, and you're whole. So wish you would have listened, not repeat what you have learned. Maybe then things would be different, wouldn't feel like love is earned. What's causing all this tension? I mean, we've heard it. Is that a blame game? I don't know. Need to feel like all's forgiven. Keyword there is feel. Sometimes forgiveness isn't a feeling. And I think that's the idea, right? What are your thoughts about those lines? What comes out to you as we drive this plane home?
I think the empathetic feeling this gives is just embracing nuance, embracing that there's no one right way. Sometimes there's just no manual for this stuff. And I think that our self-inflicted pain or the emotional pain that happens is the tyrant that is intolerant of this nuance. That we embrace this mess that is tied up and is slowly being untied, but it may or may not result in a straight linear rope at the end. So where do we go from here? We move on. We forgive whether we feel it or not. We live by some principle higher than us, from a God who has the greatest grace, that can do in us what we can never do in ourselves.
Yeah. From a technical spot, Aron, I know that we wrestled with this one. And I think this will be great to end on, because we always want to make sure we stand out of the way. I spent probably a good 2 days just struggling over these harmonies, because I always feel like I need to clothe things to make myself feel like I'm a more professional artist, or make it fancier, or people are going to lose their attention, or whatever. And we always get to this point where, no, you gotta be patient with it. And you want to talk about the journey there, and then we'll.
Yeah, so it started just you and the guitar, and I really loved it. And then when the song made into this EP, this 3-song EP, then the whole sort of pressure came to, well, it's 3-song that is very stripped back. Something needs to happen. And then you started to add the harmonies, which I think is great. It really, really works. But yeah, you kept telling me like, oh, can you just put that sound at the end? Can you just start with that? I'm like, like, no, try.
I wanted like a cricket sound through the entire song.
Yeah. So we kind of built the track and built the track and built the track. And after a while, you're like, you know what, just take away what you don't think is necessary. And I'm like, great, get the scissors out.
Yeah.
It's a good way to work. It's like you build something and then you start to strip it back to the point when it still stands with the least amount of stuff hanging on it. And if you've got a good song, that's basically pretty straightforward. But we started then cutting away. It's like a statue. You start cutting away the bits that is kind of get in the way of the message. And it's what, David, you said is the flow of it and the journey of it, is that if it's too pretty in the beginning, you don't get that, because the way you deliver the lines, again, it's what we talked about earlier. You can say the same lines in so many different emotions, and the way you say it, there's a bit of resignation to it.
Mm.
But you can't make it too pretty in the beginning. You have to feel that resignation, and the way you sing it is so good because it's not perfect. It's almost semi-singing, semi-talking.
Mm.
It's not your right now I'm singing voice. It's in between, and it just adds so much to being able to make people feel something because it's not perfect.
The reason why I wanted you to bring that up is because I think you made a point what the song means, and sometimes you stumble upon these things. But you said we had to cut it. We started with all this mess, tangled it up, and we started to untie it, and we started cutting away things and straightening it out, right? And that's why sometimes we're tempted to add more and tie more into it and tie more on. And I get overwhelmed because I have so many ideas and so many thoughts where I don't feel like this is going to be my last song ever, right? I wanted to get it all out now. But there's a patience about, no, we did all this stuff. And I feel bad for you because we do all this stuff and you spend hours putting stuff onto it. And then we're like, nah, take that away. You're like, if someone told me to do that, I would just say, get lost, man. I just spent 3 hours on this, you know? But it really is serving the song, the message, the heart, the journey of the song, not just from what we see and hear, but what was put into it in terms of the production and the performance. There's more depth in songs, more than people know. And today we're in this place where it's all polished and perfect and production-wise, to where I feel we're losing that. And Jesus needs better bands and better songwriters. So, and more producers like you. So I want to thank you guys for such a amazing, beautiful conversation. As we wrap up, I want to make sure we invite anyone listening or watching, please share this episode if you feel like there's someone who might connect with this, or who knows going through a similar experience. If you've connected with these songs or know anyone who needs to hear this, please share this podcast or video, and please share the EP that's coming out on November 5th. Election day, David. So it's going to be quite a divisive time. No intention, right? We're divided as a country most of these times, and hopefully these songs can help us to kind of unite and look at ourselves in the mirror instead of blaming it on other people. If I tripped, I'd probably blame it all on the politician. But yeah, please leave a comment below if you have any thoughts. If you're connecting, you can personally direct message me. But if these songs do speak to you, let us know. And thank you, Aron. Thank you, Loulita. Thank you, David,
Thanks,
my man.
Brian.
Have a great